Have you ever wondered how people actually bathed in the Middle Ages? Most of us carry this image in our heads. Everyone smelled terrible, nobody washed for months, and hygiene was basically non-existent. Knights in shining armor who hadn't seen soap in years, queens covered in perfume to hide the stench, peasants living in their own filth. Subscribe and comment for more medieval videos. But the truth is far more interesting, surprising, and in some cases, pretty disgusting. Today, we're going deep into how kings, queens, nobles, monks, and ordinary peasants really bathed in medieval Europe. We'll separate the myths from reality. We'll see what they used as soap, how often they bathed, what tools they had, and why some kings bathed almost every day, while peasants could go months without touching water. This isn't a boring history lesson. This is a journey into the sweat, the dirt, the luxury, the survival, and the strange contradictions of an era that still influences how we think about cleanliness today. If you like knowing the real, unfiltered truth behind historical myths, this video is for you. Subscribe, hit the bell, and get ready, because what you're about to hear might make you appreciate your hot shower a lot more and question some things we take for granted in the modern world. Let's start by destroying the most famous misconception, that nobody bathed in the Middle Ages and everyone smelled awful. This belief is only partially true, and it depends heavily on who we're talking about, which century, and which part of Europe. The Middle Ages weren't a uniform 1,000-year period of filth. Hygiene varied dramatically across time, social class, and region. The Romans had left behind an impressive legacy of public baths, thermae, aqueducts, and a sophisticated culture of cleanliness. When the Western Roman Empire fell in the 5th century, many of those customs were lost in Western Europe, but they didn't disappear completely. Christian monasteries preserved Roman bathing traditions for centuries. Monks followed strict rules of bodily cleanliness as part of their spiritual discipline. They bathed regularly, had dedicated bathhouses, and viewed cleanliness as close to godliness. In Al-Andalus, Muslim Spain, the Islamic culture brought highly advanced public bath systems called hammams. These were social and hygienic centers that impressed Christian travelers who visited. Some chronicles describe them with a mixture of admiration and moral suspicion. Even in Christian Europe, public baths existed during much of the High and Late Middle Ages, roughly 1000 to 1500. Cities like Paris, London, Florence, Cologne, and Vienna had dozens of public bathhouses. They were social hubs where people gathered, talked, played games, ate, drank, and washed. Some were mixed gender, which created scandals and moral panic among church authorities. So why do we say nobody bathed? The answer has two main parts: the Black Death in the 14th century and a moral campaign by parts of the church. After the plague killed between 30% and 60% of Europe's population, authorities began associating public baths with disease spread. Many bathhouses were closed. The idea that bathing was dangerous started spreading. At the same time, some preachers began teaching that the body was sinful and caring for it too much was vanity. Excessive bathing could be seen as pride or even lust. But even with these pressures, people still washed. They just did it differently, more privately, and less frequently than we do today. The myth of total medieval filth is exaggerated, but the reality was still far from modern standards. For kings and the highest nobility, bathing was a luxury, a status symbol, and sometimes a medical ritual. A powerful king or great lord could bathe several times a week, even daily during certain periods. They had private baths in their castles, often luxurious rooms with large wooden or stone tubs. Servants carried hundreds of buckets of hot water from the kitchens. The water was scented with rose petals, lavender, rosemary, expensive spices, or herbal mixtures. Royal baths were full rituals. The tub was lined with linen cloths. Attendants helped the king undress and enter the water. Soft sponges or cloths were used to scrub the body. After bathing, they were dried with fine linen towels and sometimes massaged with aromatic oils. Some kings were known for bathing almost daily. Queen Isabella III of Castile was famous for her frequent bathing. Many French and English kings also maintained regular hygiene routines. The wealthiest nobles had permanent bath chambers in their castles. Some even experimented with early plumbing systems using lead pipes to bring hot water. They used imported soaps from the Middle East or Italy, scented with exotic fragrances. Poorer nobles used homemade soaps made from animal fat and wood ash. Bathing wasn't just about cleanliness, it was also medicinal. Doctors recommended baths for certain ailments, and herbs were added to treat skin conditions, joint pain, or fevers. Steam baths and saunas were also popular among the rich. They would sit in small rooms filled with aromatic steam or over beds of hot herbs. However, not all nobles bathed frequently. Some believed that too much bathing opened the pores and led diseases into the body. They preferred dry cleaning with scented powders or changing clothes often. The contrast with the lower classes was enormous. The vast majority of medieval people were peasants or laborers. Their hygiene was much more limited, but not non-existent. A typical peasant might go weeks or even months without a full-body bath, especially in winter. The reasons were practical and harsh. No private baths or running water. Water had to be carried long distances from wells or rivers. In winter, the water was freezing cold. They worked 12 to 16 hours a day in the fields, covered in sweat, dirt, animal manure, and dust. Despite this, peasants did maintain basic hygiene. They washed their hands and face every day, often multiple times. They used wet cloths to wipe down their bodies. Women paid special attention to intimate hygiene, especially during menstruation and after childbirth. In summer, many bathed in rivers, streams, or ponds, often in groups. They made homemade soap from animal fat and wood ash, lye soap. It was rough on the skin but effective at removing dirt and grease. Clothes were washed when possible, though not as frequently as today. Bedding was aired out regularly, and straw in mattresses was changed. Body odor was definitely stronger than today. People sweated heavily from hard labor and had no deodorants. However, their diet was simpler, less sugar and spices, so their natural body odor was different from ours. Many rubbed aromatic herbs, rosemary, lavender, mint, on their skin to mask smells. Children often swam in rivers during summer. Feast days sometimes included communal washing. So while peasants were far less clean than modern standards, they weren't living in constant filth. They adapted to their reality with practical, low-resource methods. For much of the Middle Ages, public bathhouses were common in European cities. They were not just places to wash, they were important social centers. People went to talk, play games, eat, drink, do business, and yes, bathe. In larger cities, there could be dozens of bathhouses. Some were mixed gender, leading to moral scandals and church criticism. Others were separated by sex. The church had a complicated relationship with public baths. Some saw them as necessary for health. Others viewed them as places of sin and temptation. After the Black Death, 1347 to 1351, many public baths were closed or heavily restricted because authorities feared they spread disease. This contributed to the decline in bathing culture. Before the plague, however, bathing in public was normal and socially accepted for many urban dwellers. Medieval people used what they had available. Soap, made from animal fat and wood ash. Rich people had scented versions with herbs and spices. Cloths and sponges, used for scrubbing. Teeth cleaning, twigs, salt, or herbal powders. Hair washing, water with vinegar or herbal rinses. Perfuming, herbs, flowers, and aromatic woods. The rich had access to luxury imports. The poor made do with basic homemade solutions. Women had practical methods for menstrual and intimate hygiene using cloths, moss, or soft fabrics. Sexual hygiene was more discussed in medical texts than we might expect. The balance between cleanliness and modesty created interesting contradictions throughout the period. Today, we shower daily, use dozens of scented products, and have endless hygiene options. But our skin is often irritated by chemicals. We suffer more allergies, and overhygiene may be weakening our immune systems. Medieval people had fewer tools, but their hygiene was more connected to nature and necessity. My question for you: would you survive a week bathing like a medieval peasant? Do you think we overdo modern hygiene? What surprised you most? Tell me in the comments. If this video changed how you see history and daily life, hit like, share it, and subscribe. The next one will be even more surprising. Thank you for watching. History isn't just kings and battles. It's also sweat, soap, and how ordinary people lived. See you in the next video.